Welcome to Reels on the Rocks, the show where your hosts Whiskey and Sweet Tea discuss film from the unpretentious perspective. Today, innovative adaptations are in full bloom with 2002's Adaptation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and as always, please be advised that spoilers are ahead.
Welcome back, flower buds.
How long did it take you to come up with that one?
You're so quiet.
I laughed.
You didn't welcome them back with me.
I was just like, okay, no shade. I was expecting something better and more clever than flower buds.
Oh no!
But that's, you know.
I mean, I was trying to think, like, was there something that he said that I don't know? There wasn't really like a slogan or a catchphrase or anything. But welcome back, as I said, flower buds, to the show. It's been a little while, most likely. Like, it's been over a month since we recorded, so not sure when this is coming out, but it'll probably be a bit of a
I'm sorry, who are you again? I forgot. Who is this?
I'm Whiskey.
Whiskey. Oh, emphasis on the key. Got it.
Right? But we're back, and, with anime past us, this themed pairing is all about inventive adaptations. So, it's super common in the movie world to adapt a movie from a previous work, whether it's a play or a novel or a video game these days. So the whole point of this is, are there movies that have been adapted from, unique sources where they, and when you take something very strange, how do you adapt that? And obviously I picked the film with the title of like our thing. So we're talking about Adaptation.
Oh my gosh. I love that you made that like 3 syllables. I'm just like adaptation. You're like adaptation. You can already just feel the pretension, but let's continue.
Well, I mean, adaptation and adaptation are 2 different words, so there's that.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
And I see people using them interchangeably, and
yeah.
I kind of I prefer the word adaptation. I don't really ever say adaptation myself, so I don't know. I don't know if there's actually a difference and people have just stopped being literate or something. I'm in that camp.
Oh my god!
Because again, I don't know. I mean, geez.
You came out swinging already. My god. So first off, I have no idea what I'm talking about. And then Whiskey's over here like, yeah, people are dumb and they use them interchangeably.
I think it's just because I recently watched a thing about the literacy crisis and you have 18-year-olds who don't know the word silhouette. So it's just like...
See, I know that word. I just can't spell it without looking it up. But that's a separate issue.
Right? But yeah, anyway, separate topic. Crises, when we're in our 60s, our nurses probably won't be able to read their charts. But we'll see how that
makes
goes.
Me feel so good.
So fun bit of whiskey lore. I don't think it has come up. It might have, like, offhandedly in the past. Common question, who's your favorite director? What's your favorite movie? In both of those cases, I have, like, a short list. I wouldn't say I have a film that's, like, my favorite film. I have a bunch of favorite films. And same thing with director. It'd be very hard for me to narrow it down. But I do have a favorite screenwriter, and it happens to be the writer of this film, Charlie Kaufman. So we'll start off with the basic info, and then we'll get more into the discussion.
Wait, before we get into that, why is Charlie Kaufman your favorite? Like, tell us, what about his work speaks to you?
I think that there's no one... Literally, his agent says it in this movie, because we'll get into it, but this is semi-autobiographical. But he's like, no one comes up with a crazy story like Charlie Kaufman. And that's really like what I like about him. I've said on the show multiple times, I really value originality. And Charlie Kaufman's breakout hit is a film about a man finding a portal into a famous actor's brain and slowly learning to puppeteer him around and steal his life.
Oh, so it's
So
basically
that's
so he did the original Ratatouille.
yes, basically.
He's the creator of Ratatouille.
Well, and this man has made T cry in the past. He's actually won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which I would say is one of my all-time favorite films. Made T cry when he saw it. So
Okay,
he's got some...
I need to put an asterisk in there. He was so good, really, about creating such characters that you wanted to believe in, that there was like, without spoiling, there's definitely like a rug pull scene, and it pissed me the hell off.
Right.
But that's good examples of writing, that you were able to create something that got somebody so like engrossed like that they legitimately felt betrayed by this non-existent person.
Exactly. And this is all of his, like, his movies, that agent, I don't know if he actually ever said that to Charlie when they were talking about this or whatever, but he took the words right out of my mouth. Like, that's what I like about Charlie Kaufman. Like, his movies are very out there, but not in a way that's like gonna completely alienate people. I think his weirdest movie, which was kind of a film bro movie, it's sort of his magnum opus, but for that reason, it's not exactly approachable to most people. It's Synecdoche, New York. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode, but that film is about a playwright who starts writing a play about his own life, and then it starts overlapping, and so like, and he's trying to create like this. He buys a defunct like sports stadium and makes like a chunk of New York out of it, and then the actors start acting out his... It gets crazy. That's the one where it just like turns into what, you know, how long has it been in this recording? A mind fuck. It's not my favorite film of his, but it is a good watch, and there's like a long passage of time that happens. I think the film takes over the course of like 40 years or something. So there is sort of this, you know, like the film starts with him having you know, a wife, and then she gives birth to a daughter, and then they end up leaving him. And then like when his daughter is like grown up in her 40s, they reconnect, and like, so it's got like that going on for it. Anyway, this is not a Synecdoche, New York thing. And also 2 years ago, he did a kids film that I mentioned and actually recommended on our end of year thing. He did Orion in the Dark. It's a Netflix film. It's based on a children's book, and it's not going to seem like a Charlie Kaufman movie at first, but then it has an interesting twist at the very end that I think is very in line with him, that I'm not going to spoil in case anyone wants to see it. But it got kind of, I don't think it was like poorly reviewed. It's one of those things where it's like a Netflix movie for kids, and it didn't get a theatrical release. So I think a lot of people missed it. And I didn't even know it was coming out. It was like back when I still had Netflix, it was promoted to me, and I saw his name and I was like, what? Charlie Kaufman did like a kids movie? That's crazy. So I watched it. I thought it was pretty good. But back to Adaptation. Came out on Valentine's Day, February 14th in 2003. The budget was $19 million. It didn't do great. I wouldn't say it was like an abysmal flop, because it only grossed $22 million domestically and $32 million worldwide. So it made a modest profit, but nothing to really, shake anything at.
But like, okay, wait, but conventional wisdom is that it has to make double its profit of its budget. Yeah. It was 19 million. Double would be more. So basically, this was technically a bomb then.
Technically,
slightly, very slightly though.
Yeah. Well, okay. And so it was nominated for 4 Oscars and it won 1 of them. So it's one of those cases I'm always talking about with the Academy Awards, where it kind of helps redeem some movies that underperform, because this is looked back on as like kind of a classic Charlie Kaufman movie, a really good follow-up to Being John Malkovich. And it has a little bit of a sentimental kind of connection to some people that I'll get into later. But the cast, you have Nicolas Cage playing two roles, Charlie and his brother Donald Kaufman. You've got Meryl Streep playing Susan Orlean, who is a real person and actually wrote a follow-up article to this film just last year. You've got Chris Cooper playing John LaRoche, once again a real person, although I don't know what he's up to now, if he's still producing pornography or what's up with that. You've got Tilda Swinton as I believe she was like her name is Valerie Thomas, and I believe she was like a representative for Sony or for the publishing company. Yeah, she was like the one who like pitched him the book and was like his point of contact with Sony, I think. So
yeah,
and again, real person. You've got Cara Seymour playing Amelia Cavan. Oh, I hope that's not Karan. Whatever. It's sort of Charlie's love interest, not really, that he's too chicken to ask out. And you've got Brian Cox playing Robert McKee, who again was a real person, actually did do like a screenwriting seminar.
Dude, wait, pause really quick. I have that book.
I mean, I feel like he probably was assigned reading, probably even at Boston University where we went to school.
Well, it wasn't assigned reading for me. It's just one I went out and bought on my own, but it's the exact same cover.
Gotcha. Also, I have just realized we never said, what are you drinking, T?
I was wondering when you were going to get to that. So I found, this is courtesy of, I believe it's punchdrink.com, literally called The Orchid Thief. From what I can tell, though, it's completely unrelated. So I don't know. I just happened to be looking for orchid-themed cocktails, and this came up, and I thought it was going to be one of these things like, oh, we designed a cocktail around a movie, but they don't mention the movie at all, or the article, or the book. It's just, it's sherry, vermouth, and some Benedictine. And if I wanted to get fancy, I could do a lemon twist. That is too much work for me to do for a non-visual presentation. So we're just doing with that, but interesting. I'm not a big sherry fan, but I thought I'd just go ahead and do this. I mean, I had to. It's the Orchid Thief.
Right? Dang, that's a simple cocktail. I did not come across any of those. Every cocktail, like orchid related, or they had like I think I found like a Charlie Kaufman cocktail. Everything was way too many ingredients that I did not feel like buying just for one drink this time.
Did you try buying an orchid, smashing up the pollen, and inhaling it instead?
Maybe. Well, technically the orchid in question is an endangered species that I don't think is readily available. So,
dude, I can pick them up at HEB. Okay, we're fine.
Well, not that specific orchid.
Yes, ghost. That is true. Not the ghost orchid. That is very true.
Because that's the one that supposedly has those tendencies. So what I was going to do was get some key lime pie and brew some coffee, and I could not find any key lime pie. So this is my time to shame Safeway, because I feel like that's not that crazy of a pie to have, even just
not even in the frozen section. Right, that's like a basic pie.
Right, they have like Reese's stuff. They had cheesecake. They had everything but key lime. So couldn't do key lime pie and coffee, and then joke about getting a restraining order. So I'm just gonna say it.
Safeway is not a real place. If it doesn't even have key lime pie, that's not a real place.
I miss Ralph's. That's one of the things that I miss about living in LA. For all I know, they didn't have it either, but I feel like I could usually find things at Ralph's that I can't find
right now,
at Safeway.
In season, we have a Sweet Caroline blackberry key lime pie that's served fresh at the grocery store. So good. It's expensive, but it's so good. But,
there you go.
That's just me bucking for an HEB sponsorship, but go on.
So what I settled on, doing some research, I was like, does Charlie Kaufman have a favorite cocktail? And nowhere, anywhere on the internet has he ever talked about drinking alcohol or having a favorite cocktail. But he's an avid coffee drinker, and he has spoken on many occasions of drinking coffee. Definitely tracks with his character in the movie, because that's all he really ever drinks. So I found a fancy cold brew, La Colombe Coffee Workshop cold brew.
Oh, I
and
love La Colombe.
It's so just good. A black, unsweetened medium roast. Charlie Kaufman apparently always takes his coffee black, unsweetened. So, got a can of this, and, most Charlie Kaufman thing to drink. So, going back into the details. So, I mentioned that this was nominated for 4 Academy Awards. So Charlie Kaufman was nominated for Best Original Screenplay. He basically always is. He was nominated for his previous film. He was nominated, I think Eternal Sunshine came out right after this, like a year or two. And that's what he ended up winning. He's only ever won 1 Oscar, but he has won over 100 writing awards, with the Guild, with all sorts. So he's... again, once we say this all the time, the Oscars are not everything. He has only won 1 Oscar, but he's won over 100 awards. So sometimes it's not always about the Academy Award. So he did not win. Nick Cage was nominated for both. Fun fact also. So Charlie Kaufman and his fictional brother Donald were actually both nominated for Best Original Screenplay. Because Donald does not exist. He is a fictional character. Charlie Kaufman did not have a twin brother that died in the making of this film. But this is one of the only times the Academy has, nominated a fictional character for an award. There have been other times in the past, but this is one of the few times. And Nick Cage was nominated for his portrayal of the brothers. He actually... he was instructed to do some things that he went, according to the info, went against his instincts. But he trusted the director, Spike Jonze, did things that he normally wouldn't have done as an actor, and he got nominated for the part. So, didn't end up winning, but kind of showed, they know what they're doing. Meryl Streep was nominated for Best Leading Actress. And Chris Cooper was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for John LaRoche. And he is the one who won the Oscar for this movie, which is deserved. I was one of those things where I was like, who's Chris Cooper again? And I recognized him on IMDb, and I was like, oh, shoot, he really, looked like a Floridian redneck.
Yeah.
He did the accent. He's missing his front teeth. I believe that he is a Florida man, so he definitely deserved that Oscar. So before I get into Charlie Kaufman's background, what was your initial thoughts? How did you receive this film? Because you went into it pretty blind. I think I kind of explained to you what the gist of it was. That it was a movie about writer's block, and that it was the screenwriter essentially started writing something and then realized he couldn't write it, so he just made a movie about him trying to write the screenplay. So I think that's the only background you got, and I don't even know if you remembered that when you got into the movie.
I remembered that. I did remember that. Literally, and I had no frame of reference for anything else except for the poster. That you sent me, but other than that, I basically just went into it totally blind. I no idea even know who. At that point, I did not know who Charlie Kaufman was.
Right. So what did you think?
Okay. I need to be
different. Because I also I guess it was before you watched the movie. Because if you hadn't seen the movie when I sent you the poster, because you said, wait, so he's a real person?
What I said was, oh God, he's real, is what I said.
But I guess you said that before you'd seen the movie, because at that time I was like, oh geez, I guess he didn't like the movie, or he thought Charlie was too grating or something. So
okay, so I had literally just finished watching it when you sent me that.
Okay.
Not a fan. I realize how important he is to you, so I'm trying to not be a total bitch about this.
Let it rip. Honestly, okay. I am curious, what didn't you like about it? Because I know this is kind of a weird movie, but especially with like kind of the themes of, struggling with your self-esteem. I'll get
Yeah.
into it later, but this is really apparently hit a nerve with a lot of people, and they have kind of felt that Donald's little speech at the end really like resonated with them to the point where they were able to kind of come out of their shell a little bit. And I was wondering, because I have not seen this film since high school. This isn't one of my favorite Charlie
Really?
Kaufman movies.
Okay.
I liked it a lot when I saw it, but it was just one that I never ended up rewatching.
Okay.
So I remembered the premise, and I think that's what I was like focused on as a teenager, like the meta aspect of it, and like, whoa, he's writing the movie and we're watching him write scenes that we saw previously. Like, I think that's what I was wrapped up in, because there was a lot of themes I picked up on now that I don't remember, like the whole, looking for desire in something, and obviously the commentary on self-esteem and kind of believing in yourself and having the confidence to like go after what you're looking for. So I'm surprised that didn't resonate with you.
It may have been, I really do think it may have been the vehicle. Or in this case, what do people say? Like, right message, wrong messenger.
Gotcha. So was it just
because
like the?
let me just say this. So it took me a minute to realize what was going on. So then, so just so you know, I watched it entirely. I tried to watch this when I first started trying to watch it. I was like, okay, like a normal movie, I'm going to sit through it. Then I realized they were doing this weird, there's two plot lines going on, and I had trouble, not that they were complicated, but there was not enough, and Charlie would complain about this, there was not enough going on in either one to super capture my interest to the point where I was like, when we went back to the other story, I was like, okay, and this is where we're picking back up. So then what I tried to do is I stopped, and then I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to watch each plot line separately. And then I realized at some point that they converged, so then that upset me, so then I had to go back to the beginning and sit through it all again.
I think you needed to trust the movie a little bit more.
I did.
I see where your thought process is, but if you had just sat through the movie the first time, the convergence probably would have felt different. Instead of being annoyed, you probably would have been like, oh, I get it now.
Now, there were definitely some scenes I related to, and I related to them to the point to where they irritated me, like how the movie opens, and I think there's a couple more scenes throughout the film that are like this, when it's just him cycling through his thoughts. That's literally what my brain sounds like 24 hours a day. Not necessarily.
You know what this is sounding like? This reminds me of a few weeks ago when I sent you that reel of the girl doing the Zoomer girl with no personality, and you immediately thought I was talking about you.
Oh my god!
No, I just think this is a
I
funny,
I felt
like a
attacked.
funny impression.
So, and I've had a problem, which is unconventional structure. Like for me, it's very much in how the execution is and the story for me to really grab my attention. Because I'm in a book club, and we've read books that jump between different plot lines, which I typically don't have a problem with. But if the stories are not, this sounds weird. This sounds really not weird, but it sounds really whiny on my aspect, which will be ironic later. If one of the stories isn't interesting, I will literally just space out during one of your stories until you get back to the more interesting one. So towards the beginning of the movie, Charlie is one of the most, oh my god, how would I say this? Whiny, like, poor me, perverted people I've seen on TV in a wild time. You know who he was? He's Shenji. He's right. His name's Shenji, right? From Evangelion. He's basically Shenji. He is.
Well, at least he never did what Shenji did at the beginning of that film.
He came very, very close. Like 3 times. There was no dead bodies, actually, to be clear. But I was like, dude, clearly you have some issues. So I actually found the Orchid story more interesting for a bit. But then it's like the Orchid story then dragged for a while. And then at that point, I think that's when what he calls Donald to come to New York with him. And I'm like, okay, it's getting good. again. And then they converge, and I was just like, none of this feels earned or paid off or whatever. I really think my problem with this, and I think if you remember correctly, I had sort of an issue with this in Eternal Sunshine. I didn't like any of the characters in this movie. I didn't connect with any of them, which is weird because I feel like I really should have connected with Charlie. But all Charlie made me want to do is stop writing, which is wild.
Well, that's
which I think is like the opposite of.
I feel like most people, again, like I didn't really remember the confidence thing as much from when I was a kid, but like this is a movie I've talked about with people where it's like, oh, it's so relatable when you're a screenwriter.
Mm-hmm.
And watching it this time, like I don't have the self-esteem issues that Charlie has, but like the things he would do, just like when he was starting off and it's like, oh, I should probably have breakfast. Oh, but I should write something and like reward myself later. Like that happens all the time. Even when I'm not starting a project, if it's like, you know, script I haven't.
You
touched
suddenly
in a while
have the need to like. That's when you're like, you know what I need to do? I need to clean my event covers. Like it's like you literally find anything else to do. So I do understand that.
And part of the reason that
I just don't understand why he didn't talk with Orlean Chica from the beginning. That would have been the first thing I would have done. I'm writing a screenplay based on your article. Let's talk with you. Like, why was that like the last thing he thought of?
Right. Well, it's because he's afraid of talking to people. Like, anyway, so part of the reason I said let it rip, this is not really Charlie Kaufman. This is a character he has made up. Like he has some of these tendencies, but he is obviously, as a matter of fact, I literally, in preparation for watching or for doing the show, one of the bits of research I did, so I guess Spike Jonze and Charlie Kaufman, I don't know if it was a film festival or something, but 2 years ago they screened this and at least Being John Malkovich in 4K at the Egyptian Theater in Los Angeles, and some dude recorded the Q&A and posted both on YouTube. So, you know, didn't write down the name of the channel, but I don't think it's one of those channels. I think it was just for some dude to like post on YouTube. I don't think he's trying to make any money.
Just so you can like watch it back later, yeah.
Exactly. So shout out to that. It's literally the only video on YouTube of that Q&A. So if you search for it, that's who it is. But it's funny, like, so Charlie like writes himself as like being nervous about him balding, and clearly Nick Cage is wearing like a wig that has like a bald spot. I just watched the Q&A that was 2 years ago, so it was like 30 years after this came out, almost. I think it was 22 years. Charlie Kaufman's not that bald.
Yeah.
Like, even 20 years later, like, he does not have that bad of a hairline. Maybe if I was looking at the top of his head, I could see it better or something, but he had perfectly fine hair. And again, also, who knows, maybe it was like hair plugs or something in the years before, but like, he does not look like his character in this movie. There's like things, like the way he dresses and stuff is about the same, but like, he's not that fat. In fact, he's not fat right now. Again, I don't know if he lost weight.
Even in the movie, he's like average body size. Like, I was just like, why does he keep calling himself fat?
Yeah, right? So, anyway, like, you can rip into this character because it's not the real Charlie Kaufman, and he is fully aware of all of the things that the character is doing that are, like, problematic or weird or neurotic or whatever, and it's played up for comedy. Like, this is labeled as a comedy. Most of his films are comedies with sometimes heavy themes, like usually dealing with like depression or certain neuroses or something. So it's like he has kind of a similar sort of character that he's working with in all of his movies, but he knows what he's doing. And like, you're not supposed to like think like, oh, this guy, you might feel sorry for him. Like, one of the scenes that is super funny, but it's also like sad, and you see it nowadays in these like human resources memes on the internet and stuff. But basically, like, going off of the key lime pie I was talking about, he goes to this diner, and the waitress notices he's got a book on orchids, and she's obsessed with the flower and stuff. And then he starts like crushing on her and like fantasizing about her and stuff. And he does the stupid move the next time he goes in to invite her to an orchid show, which immediately is like stepping over the line. Like, she's nice. She likes talking to you and stuff, but it's like you've crossed
she's
over
literally
into being creepy, and she immediately talks to her like coworker,
her manager, right?
Right. It's like, it's funny because it's so innocent, but it's also like, oh, he let the fantasy take over, and he forgot, like, oh, she probably doesn't actually like him, but she likes talking about flowers with him and stuff. So that's like Charlie Kaufman's character in a nutshell. And even previously in the film, he clearly that musician he was dating clearly was interested in him, and he was too nervous to like kiss her, which kind of comes back at the end of the film. The
end of that film, when that happens, I'm like, and he succeeded with what he started out with, a character with no growth. Because at the end of the movie, he still relies on female attention for validation.
You're not wrong. I would say that he's gone through the growth of having the confidence to make a move, because you talk about how he doesn't talk to Orlean, and that's kind of the thing. He's too chicken to talk to her, the same way he's too chicken to kiss his date. So like, you're not wrong, because that's like the whole. He's also self-aware about like the fact that he's doing these things that they tell you not to do, almost in just defiance of the rules.
Yeah.
Let me get into, because I've got all this info on Charlie Kaufman. So let me go through. So I mentioned, so he's won 108 awards out of 115 nominations. He actually enrolled at BU originally.
Oh my God.
Crazy, right? So he enrolled at BU but transferred to NYU. And he started writing in the 90s. 1990, there was a sitcom called Get a Life, and he was one of the writers on that. And he was working on that sitcom when he wrote Being John Malkovich, and that's when he started passing it around to people. And, it was... essentially, it was kind of like this... I don't know if it made the blacklist or anything, but, like, people were talking about it, but it was too weird. No one wanted to make it because it was such a strange idea. And actually, Spike Jonze was the one to reach out to him about directing that, because Spike Jonze was a big music video director in the 90s. He did stuff for Weezer and like all these other, bands. But he wanted to get into directing features. So he actually reached out to Charlie, I believe through his agent. And because he was not a known director, Charlie Kaufman didn't know who he was. And he, looked up a Spike Jonze spelled, because Spike Jonze spells his name Jonze.
Yeah.
So he looked up Spike Jonze spelled traditionally, and it was like some dude who made like, whatchamacallit, like basically like instructional videos or something. So Charlie was super confused, like, why does this guy want to direct my movie? And eventually they met up, and they hit it off really well, and history was made. Being John Malkovich was also nominated for a bunch of awards, including Best Picture that year, so didn't end up winning that. Actually, yeah, it didn't win anything, but it was nominated, and this was kind of like the follow-up. On IMDb, they call his trademarks, in quotes, reality and identity. Reality versus identity, that sort of thing, which is very true. A lot of it has, like, Eternal Sunshine, for instance, is all about, kind of takes place inside someone's mind. Being John Malkovich, you haven't seen the film, but like I said, it's about like a man puppeteering another man, and it's like what, like, it gets into other things. That movie is a whole can of worms as well. Oh, he actually worked with Stephen Colbert and Louis C.K. on the Dana Carvey Show. And he did an uncredited rewrite of Kung Fu Panda 2. Oh, did you ever watch the BAFTA speech that
Yes, I
sent
did.
you?
I did.
So yeah, that I kind of agree with Spike Jonze. I do think that's Charlie in a nutshell. Because like the whole speech, just to kind of boil it down, he talks about like, are you going to tell the truth or are you going to sell something when you're writing? And I feel like this is going to date this episode. I always bring up something that kind of pinpoints when we recorded this, but currently something that's happening in Hollywood that's really interesting is you've got a Star Wars movie basically bombing. They're trying to, it hit its like 200 million milestone like a month after it came out. So like, it's probably not going to like completely, like sink the company or whatever, but no one cares about Star Wars. But in the meantime, all of these YouTuber directors are coming out with these horror movies, and we're seeing box office numbers like nobody's seen. AMC reported that it's the highest theater attendance they've seen since pre-COVID. So, it's to tie it back into like truth versus selling you something. You have a mega corporation putting out what is more of a product than a movie. Just meant to like kind of satisfy the Star Wars fans. Part of their marketing was like, oh, it's the first Star Wars movie in theaters since episode 9. But, I'll save my criticism for the year-end episode, but it doesn't have a lot going on. And it almost feels kind of like an afterthought putting it in theaters. It could have just been a TV special and stuff. Meanwhile, you have these very young filmmakers with bizarre ideas that no one really would have, like, frankly, both Backrooms and Obsession would have kind of made. It's a miracle both of them weren't like dumped onto streaming or something, and it's a miracle A24 gave a 20-year-old almost like full creative control over a project, but it worked, and that's another thing. Both of those films, we will talk about their flaws and stuff at the year-end episode. They're by no means necessarily perfect movies, but they resonate with the youth, and the youth are going to see them. And even people, I'm sure there's like older, like boomer types who are like, Backrooms, what's this about? Probably wandering into the theater, probably not understanding it either, but it's the popular movie, so better see what it's all about.
I will say, in the case of that movie, I still think they're selling a product. It's just a newer product.
True, but at the same time, they're allowing the creator of the thing that is popular to, do whatever he wants with it.
They're letting him cook alone, is basically what you're saying.
Exactly. It's kind of like if Disney wanted to do that with Star Wars, and they apparently
By the way, we're talking about The Backrooms. I feel like we keep saying that movie. The Backrooms is the one we're referencing.
the Backrooms, and to a lesser extent, Obsession. I think Obsession really applies to this more, but Backrooms, I think, at least counts because it's still the #1 movie as of recording. Probably not going to be for much longer because Spielberg's movie is about to come out, but at least as of recording, for several weeks in a row, it has dominated the global box office, which is a big deal. Like, people in other countries are watching it too, so it has struck a nerve with people, whether it's perfect or not. Because that was the other question with Backrooms, is like, people don't like the ending, are people going to keep coming to see it? And apparently they are. But yeah, like, going back to, like, if Disney wanted to have, like, quote unquote, someone speak their truth, they'd bring back George Lucas, which supposedly they are apparently letting him direct some future project, although they haven't named it or anything. And they do that a lot. They said, like, Rian Johnson got his own trilogy, and where has that been? So who knows? But, like, Charlie Kaufman was talking about a lot of other things in his BAFTA speech.
The
he was
BAFTA
kind of talking about, like, he was also kind of referring to, like, maybe even, like, important documentaries, like, talking about serious topics and stuff like that. But I do think that it is a topic you can apply broadly to Hollywood. And I think he's right, to be honest. Like, I think that speech, listening to it, because I heard Spike Jonze shout it out in that Q&A, and then I went and found it and listened to it, and I agreed with him. I was like, yeah, this is pretty much Charlie in a nutshell, but I also think that's why I like him so much. His movies are weird, but he is kind of speaking from a level of emotional intelligence you don't see in a lot of other filmmakers. And a lot of his material, you know, besides identity and reality, like he is kind of examining these people with emotional trauma, or, you know, they have neuroses or things that make, you know, regular interactions with people difficult and stuff like that. And because, like, again, we could go back to Being John Malkovich. That's a cast of strange characters, if you've seen the film. And then in Eternal Sunshine, both Clementine and Joel are kind of weirdos, like, in their own way.
Yeah.
And the one thing I will criticize, it is funny to me that a lot of the protagonists in every Charlie Kaufman film are always like shy dudes. So I did, and I'm sure he is aware of this too, but I feel like he's like unconsciously writing himself into every movie
he
makes.
definitely is. So because I had to Google some stuff, like, just to make sure I was understanding what was happening. And it's, from my understanding, he like writes himself, like you said, either unconsciously or consciously not. Like, his main characters definitely are a type.
Sort of. And well, like, yes, but one thing,
even going as far recently as the one I heard referenced a lot is, I'm thinking of Ending Things. Like, people were talking about the way that character was written too.
Well, so the thing that makes him not insufferable to me is that, again, he has like a self-awareness. He knows, I'm sure if you brought this up to him, he'd be like, yeah, I know they're all basically me. But like in that film specifically too, the main character is not Charlie Kaufman. Her boyfriend, who she's thinking of ending things with, is. He's the one you could really kind of... and that character is not an attractive or... I can't explain too much without completely spoiling that movie. But
Right.
Matt Damon is not a good boyfriend or someone that you would like aspire to be. So it's not like he thinks of himself as a hero, or like, you know, someone who would be really annoying is someone who writes themselves into the movies as like the cool guy. Christopher Nolan was sort of people accused him of doing this in Inception, because it's like him and Leo DiCaprio look like the same person. And it was like, and also people have like talked about how he always like wrote like dead wives in his movies. So it was always like, what are you trying to say, Chris Nolan? I don't think he's guilty of that, but with Charlie Kaufman, I think what prevents him from being annoying about writing each one of his characters is like he has enough self-awareness to not make it a narcissistic. Even in this movie, he shouts it out. He's like, oh, you're putting yourself in the Flower movie? Isn't that kind of narcissistic? I think his like inner monologue calls himself a narcissist and stuff like that. So it's, again, actually, he's aware of what he's doing.
Let me talk about that. Let me talk about this, because this is kind of, even though I'd seen Eternal Sunshine, this is kind of really more my introduction to Charlie Kaufman. And so really I kind of talked with you a little bit more, and you told me a little bit more, and I watched his speech. I did not get a good impression of Charlie Kaufman at first, because I was like, imagine the ego of somebody who is given the job to adapt something and instead decides what would be the more interesting story is him writing about himself adapting that story. And one of the things, and this is one of the things that bugs me about this movie, is since it is, because like I feel like I would have enjoyed this more if it had been not a real thing that he was supposed to in the outside world adapting. It is literally this woman's book that actually exists that he kind of uses as a way to talk about himself. And from what I read, from what she said, she had to be talked into giving the approval on this too. So I was not super happy with him for now. Of course, she said now that she likes the movie. She thinks it's a perfect mix of like what the characters in her book were doing, which is a nonfiction book. I mean, what the book, what her writing process and the book and him, so it worked out. It just did not give me, and again, this is before we discussed a little bit. it did not give me a good vibe about him, especially with it being a woman's work and this being the early 2000s. It did feel very, she is my prop to tell my story with. And I guess that was kind of like my problem after that I felt in my head immediately after watching.
Yeah, no, it's the thing. What's always hard to research with this movie in particular is some of it is true and some of it is not, and that is like what dominates most of the Q&As when you get to talk to Charlie. You'll be like, oh, this scene, did this really happen like that and stuff. And thankfully, the Q&A obviously brought up some stuff, and also he's talked about this before in other interviews. So one thing that is accurate is the fact, like, the setup for this is real. Like, he really did try and earnestly adapt it, and then he blew past his deadlines and started freaking out. So, like, that is true. And so it was not like planned, like, I'm going to write about myself. And clearly, again, like in the movie, he's saying literally everything you just said in his mind, like in his little like negative monologue. And again, that to me is like what prevents him from being unlikable, is like he knows what he's doing is dumb and narcissistic and and risky too. It's like, what makes you interesting enough to make a movie about? And I think that's also why it works as like a comedy, because the character he's written himself to be is funny because he's so pathetic that it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's hard to even
he's weird with
what
women.
I'm talking about.
He's weird with women too. I mean, like the fact that, again, it was a real person. He then decided in the screenplay, we also needed to have her do porn and then show her doing porn. Like, it was just stuff like this. I'm like, what is wrong with this guy in real life? Like, do we need to check his hard drives? Like, what is, he had a weird...
Well, thankfully, he is married in real life, and not only that, he has successfully kept his wife and kids out of the public spotlight. So,
so that's good.
Again, it's not
like,
I'm not necessarily accurate.
I'm not trying to like white knight for women here, but there's just something about this straight white cis man essentially using this woman's work to then talk about himself that kind of bugged me. Even though you are right, he is in the movie as himself, he is aware of what he's doing, but I'm like, yeah, but you still went through with it,
right?
That's the part I think that really sort of bugs me.
It's valid criticism, and one thing that was kind of nice to find out is apparently Orlean does like the movie.
Yes, she does.
There's that. Will say fuck the New Yorker a little bit, because I did try to read her recent article, and then they
it's paywalled.
They paywalled me, and come on. I don't know. And that was,
to Charlie's credit, there is some discussion as to whether or not the book that he was adapting was really any good to begin with.
Yes,
I mean, he reads that Ron Livingston's character kind of reads that review in the movie, but like, yep. I looked into this. I was just trying to figure out what was going on, and I guess some other people said this, basically what he said, that they were like, this really should have just stayed as an article and not have been turned into a book. So, some people have said,
right. And it's so funny. It's because I know right after watching this, I know that you probably looked up because again, everyone reacts the same way if they see this movie. It's like, wait, what really happened though?
Yeah.
Because I remember, because I knew who Charlie Kaufman was when I saw this, and as a teenager after watching this, I was like, I didn't know he had a brother, and then I looked it up. I'm like, oh, he wasn't real, because I was in that too. Like, wait, did his brother really die? Everyone's reaction to seeing this is the same. You go to your laptop and you're like, who is real?
Yeah.
like did Susan Orlean, at what point, where's the line where he starts making stuff up? Did Susan Orlean actually perform in one of his like porn things or something? Like,
well, and then I will say the one changes that he did make that I did like is that he has LaRoche killed off, because I think even today, when you go and try to read about him, people try to be like, oh, he was this conservationist. And if you look deeper, he really wasn't. He was doing this for profit. He wasn't doing this to protect the orchids like he says in the movie. Allegedly, for entertainment purposes only. But when you look closer into it, allegedly, this was mostly for profit. So I do appreciate that Charlie kind of saw that and put a fitting end to it. That being said, I do think also this movie suffers from... I sound such an SJW right now. I'm not trying to be. There's just things that popped up in this that bugged me. And it was only because they had 2 scenes and I was like, this is like the same thing. So I have talked extensively before about female nudity and male nudity in movies. And this movie has, I think it's 2 that I remember, scenes of totally exposed women topless. Now, whether or not you believe topless women is okay or not, that's a discussion for a separate time. In the society that the movie exists in, that is a private space. That's not for everybody. But later in the movie, we have LaRoche totally naked, except they made sure not to have him face forward, which I hate that. I'm like, it sounds bad, but I'm like, that's such a total cop-out. It's kind of like you're saying one person gets the modesty and the other one doesn't. Like, this is not Charlie's fault. This is really a director's
Which is
problem.
what I was going to point out. He didn't direct the movie.
Right.
And films that he has directed, I'm pretty sure there's been some male nudity. If I'm remembering correctly, there is some in... I'm thinking of Ending Things. I'd have to go back to other ones too. But I'm pretty sure when he's directed, he's actually shown some male nudity. So...
Right, and again,
it's not
yeah, and I'm like, this is not Charlie's fault. This is a movie problem, director, producer, whoever you want to say. It's just the fact that there was 2 opposite sex characters that were nude in this movie, and one of them, and the women are the one that are more exposed than the men. It kind of just gives like and this is just a very early 2000s, 90s thing, like the idea that one sex is worth protecting their modesty and the other one isn't. It's one of these just weird things that I pick up on and have decided to, for whatever reason, spearhead. But that was something that pointed out to us. But like, just going back to just the structure of this movie, it's odd. It's a very odd movie. I haven't decided yet whether this is like an Eternal Sunshine thing for me, where I became like, I'm so upset about certain aspects because I was so invested, or if I'm upset because, like, to me at least, I didn't view it as very good. I haven't decided yet where I stand on it yet, because he obviously has had that effect on me, like I said, with Eternal Sunshine, which also, to date, this episode, we did have Ariana Grande start on the Eternal Sunshine tour within the last week.
I didn't realize. I knew about her tour starting. I didn't realize she called it that. So that's I wonder if she's a fan of that poem. I'm guessing she is.
I'm assuming she is, because if you watch, definitely the movie, because if you watch one of the music videos from the album, it's literally the movie.
Oh, you're gonna have to send me that song so I can watch the video, because it's one of my favorites. And
yes,
I got complicated feelings with Ariana Grande. I don't want to hate on.
I do too.
Music.
That's like, right. That's a separate issue. It's just, but again, like you were talking about, Charlie Kaufman's work has basically infiltrated mainstream pop culture, which is super interesting because his character that he created in this movie at the beginning is very anti-pop culture, sort of. He's like, I don't want the big Hollywood movie. But like, maybe this is why I don't like him. Hang on. Small admission here. I kind of felt a little bit like him in film school when he was like, when he's talking about, like, he
definitely has because your thing, I've noticed, if someone tells you not to do something, like, it's not full on, like, whatever that disorder is, where it's like you just can't help but like go against something. But,
anti-authoritarianism.
Well, that's not what the personality disorder is called.
Yeah,
but basically that, like, that's one thing you and Charlie definitely have in common, where it's like, because these screenwriters have these rules, he's like, no, there's no such thing as rules. Like, just like, I feel like in that sense you're kindred spirits. Um,
I did kind of understand where he was coming from when he was at that seminar, and he was like, yeah, but what if he wanted to, like, because there's nothing like do something where there's no plot, no progress, no nothing. Because now this is just a me experience. I feel like not a lot, some of the movies that they would just go on and on and on about in film school, I'm like, nothing happened for 2 hours. And so I would literally try to like write something like this. They'd be like, well, nothing's happening. I'm like, well, yeah, but nothing was happening in that movie you showed us as an example either. Why is this now a problem? So I did sort of understand that a little bit. This is upsetting me now. I don't like it. I'm identifying with the character, and I don't like that.
Again, it's he wrote some things. He understands also, like, if you write a character that's like perfect, like, part of making this character unlikable in a lot of the ways you've highlighted is if he wrote Charlie to be like a good perfect person, like, again, it would come off like he's trying to, oh, look, I'm amazing, or whatever.
I'm great.
Like, in the same way that you have things that you agree with him, you also have things that turn you off from him, and that was like intentional. Like,
yeah.
He knows, like, a lot of people have certain anxieties about writing and stuff like that, which, talking about the seminar, that's like a good point to pivot a little bit. Let me just sprinkle in a couple of fun facts that I haven't talked about. So, like, Donald, for instance, so it wasn't necessarily one of the things he was struggling with before he, wrote this or whatever. Like, he was having trouble with Charlie not having someone to talk to. Like, he knew, I can't, like, have him just be in his head the whole time. So Donald was kind of invented to have someone for Charlie to talk to and to push back on him and stuff. And then he kind of started having more fun with Donald, like, ooh, let's have him do everything the opposite of Charlie and kind of challenge his ideas and just do these things that, like, piss him off and stuff, and started, kind of making, like, a comedic character out of Donald. Something that was brought up in the Q&A that is kind of funny and also makes you wonder what Charlie might have hit on. So, although he never actually met Susan Orlean, she did, like, get copies of his script before it came out, and she had notes on it that he changed for her. So again, all of these things that came out in the movie, she gave the okay with before the movie was made. But some of the things that he originally wrote had to be taken out because, quote unquote, they were too real.
Okay.
So some of the
real
stuff he made up about
serious?
her, apparently some of the stuff he made up about her, I guess, sort of happened. And they're not in the movie. Let me be clear. Like, when she said, like, take this out, he took it out. But in some early draft of this script, apparently some of the stuff he came up with as, like, fake was a little too real for Susan. So clearly that doesn't, the porn and all that stuff clearly didn't happen, or else she wouldn't have, wanted it in the movie. But that does make you wonder, like, and I doubt he will ever tell anybody just for her own privacy, but that's the sort of thing that really, it's like, what did you guess correctly? Like, what did she end up doing that you guessed?
I mean, I wonder if there was a wake-up call for Susan. Your life's a little predictable.
Maybe. But that was something, again, I'd never heard of that until the Q&A from 2 years ago. He probably never brought it up at any other point. So kind of great that we're talking about this movie now. It's been on my back burner for this podcast for a long time. But that was like a little peek behind the curtain that just, now I'm wondering, like, what did she do with Orlean after the book that Charlie apparently guessed? So in the real meeting with Valerie at the beginning of the movie, apparently, so something that wasn't in the movie, like, Charlie used to sweat profusely, according to him, when he was, like, talking to people because he was so nervous. After this movie came out, everyone knew who Charlie Kaufman was, and, like, suddenly the paparazzi want, like, shots of him and stuff like that. So he was, like, thrust into the public spotlight because, like, people suddenly were like, who is this guy? according to him, because of all that public pressure, he does not sweat profusely when like talking to people anymore. Like it kind of cured him of that.
It was what's that like aversion therapy basically,
Right? And that was another fun fact from that Q&A video that
listen, because of that scene at the beginning of the movie, I literally wanted to call this is actually the name of an X-Files episode, but I'm like, this literally should be called The Lost Art of Forehead Sweat.
Well, in the Q&A thing, he was like, I really wish I knew how to do that again to like get rid of other things I don't like about myself. Like, cause it's great now. Like, I don't sweat like that anymore. But
he's like, I'm
I
too
wondered
confident
what it
now.
was
It
about
weirds
that.
me out.
Super funny. But let's get into the seminar, because that is one of the most talked about scenes in the movie for how funny it is and for how relatable it is.
Okay, I looked this up, and I was like, okay, we got Susan Orlean, and I don't want, okay, hopefully I'm not stepping in your toes, maybe I am. But Susan, we found out Susan Orlean was real, and I was like, I knew Robert McKee was real because I have this book. And I was like, what was his reaction? And he said that he took his son to see it at Sony, and his son told him, they nailed you. They got you down perfectly.
Well, so that is something that did really happen. Charlie did go to one of his seminars. I don't know if it was like as desperate as it was in the movie. He didn't specify in any of the interviews. I'm kind of wondering if he wrote himself going, and then he was like, well, maybe I should go just to like, because I wrote this scene and I want to, maybe I should go just for the sake of being like, yes, I went to one of his seminars, and also like, maybe he wanted to see if it was as bad as he thought it was. Again, he didn't specify any of this in any of the questions that were asked, so I don't know, and it's one of those things that would be kind of fun. Like, did you actually go out of desperation, or did you write it into the script and then you were like, it'd be fun if I actually went? But one thing I don't know if you noticed, there's one thing that's obvious, but a bunch of the things he said were like sins for writing were intentionally put into the script. Like, the obvious thing is voiceover, because there's voiceover throughout the whole movie, and that's the funniest, like, the line everyone like loves to quote in this is like, God help you if you put voiceover in your movie. It is the laziest
I know.
thing, like,
there was something else he mentioned at the seminar, and I can't remember what it is, but when I saw it, I was like, we've already done this in this movie, though. It was not that, though. It was something else he mentioned.
Another thing that's funny about the voiceover line that I don't know if you really picked up on, but so he says that Casablanca is the greatest film ever written. There's voiceover in Casablanca. If I'm remembering correctly, maybe it was a text thing at the beginning that I'm just like thinking was voiceover, but I feel like at the beginning of the movie when they're explaining the political situation in Casablanca, that was voiceover. But even if that wasn't, if I'm misremembering that, like when he's talking about his past relationship with that woman, there's voiceover. Like, I'm pretty sure during the flashbacks with them, like Humphrey Bogart's voice is, over the, so maybe I'm misremembering, but I think
you're
certain,
right, but it's been a minute.
Right? And I didn't have time to watch Casablanca before recording this, so now I'm probably going to watch that this week just to confirm. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Sorry for
do what I do.
Sorry
sometimes,
for spreading misinformation on the podcast, but I am like fairly certain at some point in Casablanca there's some voiceover, so that's like an ironic thing. Also, so you said that the ending, like when they converge, was really lazy,
which I think that was supposed to be on purpose, right?
So do you remember another one of the things he said in the seminar? He was like, never use a Deus Ex Machina.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I remember. I remember that because anytime I hear Deus Ex Machina, even though I know what it is, I always have to stop and look it up to remind myself what it is.
For anyone who needs to look it up, like T, I'll just explain it. It's when something happens that resolves the plot that had nothing to do with any of the characters' actions.
Like alligator?
Exactly. Everyone was pointing that out, is like how the alligator just suddenly kills LaRoche, and that just dissolves any of the he's able to escape. He's literally in an unescapable situation. They have him cornered. They both have guns on him. And then one of them gets attacked. The other one rushes to save the other, and he's able to run away. And that's what, ultimately gets him saved from the situation. And that is literally a Deus Ex Machina. So it's, again, like he's doing this almost like as an in-joke. Like, oh, there's all of these things I shouldn't do. I'm going to do all of them. And then it's funny that he ended up getting nominated for an Academy Award for this script. Because it's...
Well, what's funny about that scene is, that's totally supposed to be Deus Ex Machina, but all the scenes in the movie where they would show them wandering through the swamp, I'm like, y'all, there's alligators in there. Like,
yeah.
Why are we just wandering?
I was thinking the same. Well, and that's the funny thing, too. I vaguely remembered the alligator attack. I didn't remember the ending to this super well. I remember it turned into like a drug movie and there were guns and Charlie's life was in danger. But I haven't seen this since high school. It's not one of my favorite Charlie Kaufman movies outside of the like interesting premise it has. So I couldn't remember exactly what happened at the end. But I was like, oh yeah, I think the I think the alligator gets him. And sure enough, that's what happens. So the seminar.
What's hilarious is they got it so accurate. They even have the alligator do the death roll.
Yes. But the seminar is probably the most talked about scene in this whole movie, and it's great to go back to. And I bet you could even probably like pause and zoom in on the 10 Commandments. But speaking of Donald, I think it's only time for us to like
really quick about Donald.
Yeah, because he's arguably really the best character in the movie. And I'm wondering what your thoughts on Donald Kaufman are, the co-writer of this movie.
And the actual writer, exactly. So what's interesting about that is the way the movie is framed. Everything, basically, at the beginning, you kind of like don't like him, and you kind of like want to see him as like a douche or a frat guy, basically. And then later in the movie, you just realize he's just more confident than Charlie is. And it's literally the way that Charlie wrote it was he wanted us to see Donald the way that Charlie did throughout Charlie's progress. Because Charlie, once he kind of like realizes like what his issues are, or at least tries to work through them or whatever it is, then we're like, we also as the audience are very much like, oh, Donald's not bad. And he actually kind of looks up to Charlie. He just like, he's basically just everything Charlie isn't, and Charlie just resented that the whole time. But it was structured in a way to make us dislike him from the beginning, so that we also kind of had like a come to Jesus moment.
Exactly. And it's also like the way he's kind of like doing weird stuff lying on the floor. I don't know if he said he had a back problem or something. Like he's acting weird. He's talking about get rich quick schemes. And also I think it's just the nonchalance. I guess that's how you say it. Whatever. Like how casually he just brings up, I'll be a screenwriter just like you, as if it's like such an easy thing to do. So I think like, as you said, he's written to be kind of annoying, or like it puts you off of him because you're like, oh, well, that's kind of a disrespectful way to talk to someone who's like letting you stay in your place, and like, oh, your job's so easy, I could just do what you do. The point at which for me, because I saw this before, and I remember Donald I remember him annoying me a lot more as a teenager. But seeing it this time, I think the point at which Donald kind of wins me over is when he gets his girlfriend, the makeup girl. Because it also shows like, oh, he's not like a creepy weirdo, and he has like social skills.
Charlie still is a creepy weirdo by the end. I'm sorry, he is. I think if they had dropped the creepy weirdo pervy aspect of him, I would have enjoyed his character a lot more.
I mean, to be fair, the only like thing he does wrong is with the waitress, and even then it's like he kind of automatically knows like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. Like the stuff of him in his bedroom, you know, he's just fantasizing about people that he finds attractive, and so it's kind of like one of those, well, who isn't guilty of doing that? Like, obviously, in the context of the film, it looks really gross. But, like, he's in his own private place, and he's like, oh, that girl from work who's really pretty. and like he's clearly masturbating. But that's where he's not Shinji. He has not, he's not like knocked out any of these women and are doing it on, he hasn't taken that step. So it's kind of like, it's creepy. It's not even creepy. It's just like seeing him in that private thing is like kind of gross.
Well, and I think what it is, this also again just boils down to a direction choice. I feel like there was a way to show him fantasizing about people without taking us into his sexual fantasies, which to me, again, this is not Charlie's fault. Maybe it's not, but it's like by having these women, by showing them engaging in sexual activity with him or dressing in front of him, as opposed to us just inferring what Charlie's thinking about it, in a way, it's like, it's like at this point we would never have hired a male actor to do that.
Right. It's
kind of, I guess, what I'm getting at.
Well, and it's like, it's funny because Spike Jonze has kind of changed up stuff, like his early career, because again, bringing up being John Malkovich, like there's sort of like a gross,
it's very early 2000s.
Well, there's sort of a grossness to which he depicts Charlie Kaufman's characters when he's directing them, because the people in the previous movie are also kind of creepy, weird, unlikable, dirty looking people. So it just gives you like kind of a weird, gross vibe. But it's weird because since then, like another one of Spike Jonze's biggest movies was Her a few years ago. You've got Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson as the AI, and they fall in love and stuff. And that film is I don't even think there's any nudity in it. I think there is the one scene, but it's very different. And I don't know if that comes with like maturity or just, something else. But like the direction in that film is very different from early Spike Jonze work. And that's kind of an interesting thing to think about. But,
well, and I also just think that specifically on nudity, we're now much more conscious of it. And so even if it's more than it was before, I'm thinking like Euphoria, I'm looking at you.
Oh boy.
It feels less exploitative now. Like we've all had the conversations as a society. We know that they now have things called like, oh my God, what are those people called?
Oh, sensitivity like intimacy coaching coordinators. Or not,
it's sensitivity coaching, intimacy coordinators. It doesn't, the nudity, especially when it's only on women or something in a movie, it feels less gross now. I'm not saying it's not always gross, but it feels less gross
for
now.
Sure.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I got you. But back to Donald. I feel like a lot of people see him as kind of the emotional core of this movie, and just sort of, the thing that I saw a lot of people saying touched them was his speech at the end. Him and Charlie, it's dire situation. They're being hunted in the swamp, and Charlie's like bringing up like, oh, I wish I was confident like you. And he talks about a time when they were in high school where Donald asked out like the most popular girl in school. And I wrote the quote down because this is the thing that really like emotionally resonated with a lot of people. And I think it is kind of like the point of the movie. Like if there is a point to be made in the movie, again, what I would say is the character arc with Charlie Kaufman is before all of this happened, he did not have the confidence to talk, frankly, broadly to women, because it's always women he's having trouble talking to, whether it's his own date, whether it's the agent representing Sony, whether it's the author of the book that he's adapting. He has trouble talking to women, and it's this sort of conversation that's the last real conversation he has with his brother before his untimely death. Spoiler alert, but if you listen to our podcast, you should know that already. So I wrote it down. Not the full conversation, but just like, I think kind of the main point. So Donald says, I loved Sarah Charles. It was mine, that love. I owned it. Even Sarah didn't have the right to take it away. I can love whoever I want, which is frankly a good Pride Month. I don't know if this will come out
Pride Month quote.
during Pride Month, but happy Pride, everybody. I can love whoever I want. And then Charlie says, but she thought you were pathetic. And then Donald says, that was her business, not mine. You are what you love, not what loves you. And I feel like that is like the point of the movie after everything. And I think it is those words that kind of change something within Charlie to make him a little more confident when talking to women.
I do. You know what? I don't remember the quote. I remember this. I think I was too shocked by the random flying through the windshield that I kind of blocked out what happened right before it. I actually do like that. I like what he says. I love how he's like, yeah, but she like didn't even think you're. He was like, well, that's her problem. Like, okay, like, oh god, this is super tacky and super cheesy. But it's like, what did they say? And I only remember this from the trailer because I never saw the movie. It's what was it? The Perks of Being a Wallflower, where they're like, we accept the love we think we deserve. It kind of like fits in that just a little bit too.
Oh, for sure. It's a good quote, and again, it really hit like it was honestly like a Reddit forum that I saw someone talking about this when I was like, Googling all sorts of things and researching. But the person who like was in this Reddit forum was saying that all his life he'd heard people say, just don't worry about it or be yourself and stuff, and it all just felt very fake and very easy for them to say that. But when he saw this movie, like those lines, it's essentially saying the same thing. It's like, well, I loved her. It doesn't matter if, he was being himself, but something about the way that he reframed the same kind of concept really just like made it click with them. And I feel like that's two schools of this movie, because a lot of people like this movie, but I think there's the film bro side that's like, no, it's so like cerebral and it's very meta. And they, like my teenage self, really resonate with just how weird and interesting of an idea it is to adapt a book this way. And then I think there's a whole other camp of people who struggle with their self-esteem who like this movie because of the messaging it has with that aspect. And so I think that is, again, it's what Charlie Kaufman is unfortunately like a film bro writer. Like all the hipster douches really like him as well. But I feel like they're
coming out as a film douche. I'm just kidding.
Definitely when I was a teenager, I'll definitely say that. But I think what sets him apart and what makes him actually like stand out is like he has, and someone else was saying this, I forget if it was on like a comment on like one of the interviews I saw, but like there is like an emotional intelligence to his films that you don't get from like hipster directors, like there wouldn't be
that. I will say, yes, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that statement.
So, like, I think that's what saves him. Again, just like the same way his own self-reflection saves him from being insufferable when he writes himself into his movies. I think his emotional intelligence gives you something to latch on to, because all of his movies have something that really speaks to the human condition and, like, actually has like emotional resonance. And I think that's what this is in the movie.
Is this, you know what, is this going to be like a running Charlie Kaufman theme for me, where it's going to be like, I hate the movie and then we talk about it. And then I'm like, then I have just changed feelings again. Cause that's literally what happened when
I guess that'll be something to look out for in the sister episode of this.
Well, I think we are at that time now.
I was going to say, I am kind of out of things to talk about, but I wanted to make this a good episode because, again, Charlie Kaufman's my favorite screenwriter, so there's a very good chance he will come back. I was even kind of thinking of, like, possible sort of, like, themed pairings that would apply to his films in the future, but we'll see. But this film's an interesting one. It's not my favorite one. As I previously said, I think Eternal Sunshine is. But his career, as he went on to direct, he's still making some good stuff. Even a kids movie. And speaking of, like, I didn't bring that up too, but Orion in that kids movie it's based on a kid's book, but Orion could even be kind of compared to Charlie Kaufman because his whole thing is that he's afraid of everything.
Yeah.
And that's what, and the whole kids movie is about Orion getting over his fear of the dark, because the dark is like a character, and he's like, see, I'm not so scary, and blah blah blah. Anyway, but yeah, I gotta say, like, what do you think, T? What would you rate this out of 4 stars or four glasses of tea?
Going into this, I was gonna give it a 1. But, and this is again one of these cases where, through talking with you, I have a new respect for definitely Charlie. Not sure the film, but I see more of what he was trying to do. I'm still not sure I like it. I'm gonna give it an average. I'm gonna give it a 2. No, I need to be true to myself. I'm gonna give it a 1.8. The reason is, I really do appreciate, after talking with you, what he was trying to do and what he was really trying to tell us through this. I, however, think that it wasn't the best executed, but it's I'm trying to basically be like, I'm kind of like with this one, good try. I see what you were doing. Maybe try again. And I think he did with other, sort of mind films. I haven't seen Being John Malkovich, but that one's referenced a lot. Eternal Sunshine. So I do think he, like you said, with this not being your favorite, I think he's done it better. I still think this would have been a better movie, and I would have liked it more and even rated it higher if it hadn't been using an actual property to accomplish its goals with its commentary and writer's block and confidence. I wish they had made up something, like not used an actual property. Whether or not she did like it, at the
made
end
up a fake book for him to adapt, essentially.
Yeah. Because there's still a part of me that's like, even though she's fine with it, I'm still a little bit of me still like, oh, you kind of hijack someone's story to do this. But that being said, I think it's still, if you can get on board with quirky storytelling and you can get on board with kind of out there concepts and maybe things getting a little touchy-feely, I think people would enjoy this. This, I think, for me, is a personal 1.8, but my opinion of Charlie Kaufman talking to you has gone way up since we've talked. Right? And I think that's more what you want to make sure I take out of this. And I am...
Well, and again, I'd watch some more interviews with him, because again, he does not really come across the way he does in this film in real life. And it kind of makes you wonder if that's his self-esteem getting in the, you know what I mean? Like, is this
right?
He has enough self-awareness to know like how to write this character to be kind of funny. But it makes you wonder also, is like this how you see yourself? Like, is it one of those cases where you're actually a pretty cool guy in real life?
Oh, he was too honest
because
in this movie.
You have such bad self-esteem, you're like, oh, I'm creepy and I'm fat and I'm bald and I disgust women and so, when the reality is it's like, oh no, he's not like that at all.
I really do think he was writing his own inner voice in here, and I do think the fact that it got so real in certain parts did sort of get in the way of telling an interesting story. Because like I told you when I first watched this, I was more interested in the orchid story. And now that we've talked at length about it and about him and the process and how different people have reacted to this, I'm finding his story actually the more interesting one. Which is interesting. But this again is supposed to be an interesting. So maybe this is, let me actually say this. If we were straight up just talking about a movie about adapting, I would give this a 2. But since this is supposed to be an adaptation, I don't think it's a good adaptation. Even though,
which is fair.
I'm sorry. Adaptation.
Oh, no.
What did we decide on adaptation? I think is what you said. Adaptation. I don't think
that's how it's spelled.
Right. I think this is not a good adaptation, but it is a good cerebral movie, which I already don't do well with, but I can definitely get on board with the ideas that you've talked about. So I'm going to reverse it. This one's going to be, I'm going to give this a 2 because it's still not my fave, but I would do. And if we were just going by just if this is a good adaptation, it's a 1. It's not a good adaptation at all. but it is a
You
good
mentioning
movie.
you mentioning that it could have been a fake book, that could have been an interesting thing, because what if Donald, instead of being his twin brother, was like the writer of a book that he thinks sucks, and
Yeah.
so he's trying to change the book? Like, that could have been an interesting take too. The thing I've already mentioned, everyone looks up what's true about this as soon as they see the movie, because it blurs the lines enough that you're like, wait, was Susan actually in porn? Does Charlie have a brother? Yada yada. I think one of the most interesting aspects of this is that the setup is real. He didn't set out being like, I'm going to make a movie about myself. The setup of him trying to adapt it and panicking is real. Like, that's one of the things that is 100% true about this. And I think that's another thing that kind of saves him from looking like a douche, because it's like, if he set out to make a movie about himself, then he would come off as way more narcissistic. But the fact that it really was like, oh my God, I'm weeks past my deadline, what the hell do I do? Let's make a movie about me writing the movie. That's a weird Charlie Kaufman idea. Like, I think that's the most interesting thing about this. And again, this is not, I'd rate it, I'd have to have like a list of all the Charlie Kaufman movies. I'd say it's probably in the middle of my list somewhere, because I like the movie, but it's not like something that emotionally resonates with me. Maybe it's because it's like,
he's a competent writer. Everyone, Whiskey is competent. He has no writer's block. He sits down. He's Donald. He can just pump out an award-winning script.
I think it's very telling that, because when I was a teenager, I would say, looking back, I do think I had self-esteem issues. And I think it's very telling and interesting in retrospect that I didn't remember the ending to this. Because that's like the thing that I think is the point of the movie. Like, I think all the cool cerebral stuff is just Charlie Kaufman's style. But like, again, I think Donald's speech in the end is the emotional core of the movie. Yeah. And the actual like message and character change that is the important part of the movie. So again, I think it's kind of telling that I didn't pick up on that as a teenager, but looking back on it now, I'm like, oh, that's like, this is a movie about self-worth and like being confident.
Yeah.
So I like it just fine. It's not like my favorite movie of all time, which is why I told you to go nuts digging into it. So I'm going to obviously rate it higher than you, but I'm giving it a 3. I like it a lot. I don't think it's perfect. I think out of all of his movies, it's the one I bet he gets asked about the most. And it's the one I would probably want to talk to him about the most, just to get like an idea of what else was real and what wasn't. Because with a lot of his other movies, like, I get it. And there's not much to like discuss. Maybe you could, with that character that disappointed you in Eternal Sunshine, you could probably ask him like, oh, how do you feel about this
I'd have to ask him, did everyone in Eternal Sunshine have to suck? Or could we have, someone who is a good person?
Right? So yeah, 3 out of 4 for me. But what do you think? If you're listening to this on YouTube Music, you can actually leave a comment and tell us what you think. Sorry about all the other platforms. You're going to have to get on Spotify and Apple and rage at them to add a comment section. But you can also check out our backlog of episodes on all those platforms. We've been doing this for a couple of years, and we've talked about a lot of movies.
What do you mean a couple of years? We've been doing this for 6 years.
Crazy, right? Also, you can follow us on Letterboxd. I was severely lacking until just last week. I finally caught up. I hadn't even put my rating for Project Hail Mary down yet. So
oh my god!
You can definitely. Well, look at who's talking, Mr.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna get to it. I promise I will get to this.
But anyway, until next time, I've been Whiskey.
I've been Sweet Tea.
Keeping it Kino.
And even still, suck it, Scorsese.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Reels on the Rocks is a production of La Prince Laboratories. It is edited and produced by Alejandro Castillo and programmed by Jamie King. Original music is provided by Pat Mars, and original artwork by Ace Esparza.